Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the last or latest, not last, but section four, part four of the USS Zandilar. All right, so the sight of the battered USS Zandilar limped into Starbase 12 sent a wave of concern through the Federation repair crews. Commander T'Pol, observing the Zandilar's distressed arrival, immediately ordered a full, in depth diagnostic. Captain Richard looked utterly exhausted, held a terse meeting with her senior crew. We can't operate like this, Nora stated, gesturing towards the flickering schematic of the ship's constantly failing systems. The gremlins, as Ensign Johnson is aptly put it, are threatening the integrity of the entire ship. Daniel, Dana, your assessments. Daniel Key, his face drawn and weary, nodded gravely. Captain, the Romulan cloaking device is our primary culprit. Its power requirements are simply incompatible with our current power grid. Even after our modifications, it creates chronic power surges and feedback loops that are slowly but surely destroying our conduits. We can patch it, but we can't fully integrate it without a complete refit of the Zandilar's warp core. The entire energy disruption or distribution system. Dana Debbing, quiet as ever, added, "It's like trying to run a battleship's engine through a shuttle's power lines, Captain. It's too much, too often. The strain is showing everywhere." Nora made her decision. Then it's settled. The cloaking device comes out. Daniel supervised its removal. Jenny, ensure all survivors are off board or offloaded and assist Starfleet Medical with their care. Sarah, ensure we get top priority for repairs. The removal of the Romulan cloaking device was a massive undertaking, requiring several cycles of precision engineering and heavy lifting. Daniel and Dana, along with a team of Starbase engineers, meticulously disconnected the alien technology. With a final heavy clang, the last section of the device was lifted from the Zandilar's engineering deck and transferred to a secure Starbase storage facility. A collective sigh of relief swept through the Zandilar's crew. Surely, now, with the invasive foreign technology gone, their ship would return to normal. They were wrong. Several days turned into weeks. The Zandalar remained in dry dock, undergoing extensive repairs. The damage was far more pervasive than initially thought. Conduits were replaced, plasma injectors recalibrated, sensor arrays realigned, yet the gremlins persisted, albeit in new and more insidious ways. Captain, the primary navigational deflector just overloaded, Daniel reported one afternoon, his voice heavy with frustration. Again, no power surge, no external influence, it just blew out. Diagnostics show a microfracture in the plasma confinement field that shouldn't exist. Later that cycle, Sarah Johnson's astrogation console began displaying ghost ratings, phantom ships, non existent nebula, and wildly fluctuating stellar charts. It's like something's deliberately injecting false data, Captain, she said, her usually sharp mind baffled. But there is no external hack. It's coming from inside the system. In sickbay, Jenny Pulvic discovered that critical medical databases were corrupted. Patient records from the rescued miners, along with valuable research on Jason's nanite condition, had been subtly altered or deleted. "It's not a virus, Captain," Jenny insisted, her brow furrowed. It's too precise. Someone is targeting specific data, trying to erase our progress. Jason, now adapting more of his new body and finding solace in the routine of ship inspections, reported even more unsettling incidents. "Captain, I found a micro explosive charge in an auxiliary cargo bay," he stated, holding up a small, highly sophisticated device for Nora's inspection. His new nanite enhanced senses honed by his intense physical training in the shuttle bay had picked up an almost imperceptible energy signature. It was designed to cause a rupture, not a full explosion like a slow, deliberate leak. Nora clenched her fists. Someone or something is trying to destroy the Zandilar from the inside out, slowly, insidiously, but why and how? Commander DePaul, brought up to speed on the new developments, narrow eyed the Obsidian Hand. They're not merely bioengineers, Captain. They're masters of sabotage and infiltration. They likely planted something during your brief encounter with the derelict, or even when you beamed aboard their outpost. Something designed to destabilize your ship once it returned to Federation space. But what and where? Nora demanded. We scoured every deck. It would be subtle, Captain, T'Pau mused. Perhaps a nanite based agent designed to mimic structural fatigue or power fluctuations, something that would slowly erode Zandalar's capabilities, making it appear as if the ship was simply failing from wear and tear, or distress from the cloaking device. Their terrifying realization dawned on Nora. The gremlins were not random malfunctions, they were orchestrated attacks. The Obsidian Hand wasn't just after bioweapons, they were systematically targeting those who uncovered their secrets, and the Zandalir, its crew, and especially Jason, were now in their crosshairs. Even their presumed safety of Earth space dock. The battle for their ship and perhaps their lives had just escalated from a repair job to a desperate hunt for a hidden saboteur. The order of shore leave came out as a welcome, if unsettling, respite. The Zandalir, despite its extensive repairs, still suffered from intermittent gremlins hiding on the hidden or hiding at the hidden sabotage. Starfleet Command, while concerned, insisted the crew needed a break from the relentless stress and paranoia. Nora agreed, knowing her people couldn't hunt a phantom saboteur forever without burning out. For Dana Debbing, shore leave meant a trip home to the sprawling industrial outskirts of Lo, Jupiter's volcanic moon. The air was thin, the ground constantly rumbling with seismic activity, but Dana, it was the comforting smell of ozone rock and hydraulic fluid that spoke of home. Her father, a burly, good-natured retired starship mechanic named Cal, and her mother, Lara, a sharp-witted astrogator who now managed Lowe's orbital traffic, greeted her with fierce hugs. Dina, my girl, look at you, all grown up. Kill boomed, engulfing her in a bear hug. Still got those grease smudges, eh? Never changes. Lyra, more reserved but no less loving, squeezed her hand. Your captain says you've been working wonders, sweetheart, but look at you. Tired. Over a meal of replicator synthesized low native root stew, Dana found herself uncharacteristically opening up. She recounted the events, the derelict, the creature, the Romulan cloaking device, and the ongoing insidious sabotage of the Zendalir. She omitted the full horrifying details of Jason's transformation, but she spoke of her friend's ordeal with a quiet intensity. It's like something's trying to slowly strangle the Zandalir, Dad, Dana explained, gesturing with her fork. We fix one thing, another system fails. Daniel and I, we've checked everything. It's too deliberate, too intelligent for simple wear and tear. Keel, his brow furrowed, listened intensely, his mechanic's mind already turning over the possibilities. I've seen ships that fight back, but not like this. Sounds like a ghost in the machine, all right. A clever one. It's the obsidian hand, Mom. Dana continued, her voice dropping. a group trying to create biological weapons using advanced nanites. They're trying to destroy us for uncovering them. Lyra's expression hardened. Dangerous business, sweetheart, but you're a good engineer. You and Ensign Key, you'll figure it out. As the meal progressed, Dana found herself speaking of her hopes. She spoke of the camaraderie with Daniel and the unspoken understanding they shared in the heat of engineering. Daniel is brilliant, Dad, truly. He sees patterns I miss. I can often pinpoint the exact failure point he's theorizing. We make a good team. She then spoke of her growing confidence, the battles against the gremlins, the desperate fight to save the Zandilar had pushed her beyond what she thought was capable of. I used to just follow the schematic, Dana confessed, a rare smile touching her lips. No, no. I feel like I'm reading the ship's, or no. Now I feel like I'm reading the ship's heartbeat. I can anticipate where the next problem will be. I'm learning to truly engineer, just not just repair. She described her ambition to completely overhaul the Zandalar's power grid to create a system robust enough to handle the cloaking device, to make the ship truly impenetrable to such subtle sabotage. It would take months, years even, but I think Daniel and I, we could do it. Make her stronger, faster, safer. Keel listened, his eyes twinkling with pride. That's my girl, always thinking bigger. You got the spark, Dana. That's what makes a great engineer. Lyra, always practical, and interjected, but for now, sweetheart, you need to rest. Starfleet can wait a few days for your genius. Let those old conduits mend themselves while you mend. Dana managed a genuine laugh, the first in weeks, her family unwavering support, her father's understanding of a ship's soul, and her mother's practical wisdom were a much needed balm. Despite the ongoing threat to the Zandalir, despite Jason's ordeal, and despite the mysterious gremlins, Dana felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had a team, a mission, and a ship that needed her. And for the first time, she felt truly ready to lead the charge against the hidden saboteur, one conduit at a time. Daniel Key's home was a minimalist apartment in a bustling commercial level of Earth space dock itself. The stark contrast to Dana's sprawling low home, it was meticulously clean, filled with holographic schematics of advanced engineering principles and ancient Japanese artifacts. Reflected his dual nature of meticulous precision and cultural heritage. But even here, surrounded by order, a new kind of chaos brewed in his heart. His first priority on shore leave was always family. He spent a precious afternoon with his sister, Akiko, her husband, and their two rambunctious children. Akiko, a Starfleet astrophysicist, possessed a warmth and earthliness that perfectly balanced Daniel's intensity. As the children chased each other through the living area, Akiko set out a traditional tea ceremony, a calming ritual amidst the constant hum of the starbase. You look well, Daniel Kun, Akiko observed, her eyes sharp as she poured, but there's a new light in your eyes, and a deeper exhaustion than usual. Daniel sipped his tea. The familiar earthy taste a comfort. He spoke of the Zandalar's ordeal, the harrowing rescue, the cloaking device, the insidious sabotage, and the consistent battle to keep the ship from falling apart. He spoke of Jason's transformation, the profound sadness and determination he felt to find a way to help his friend. Then, with a rare vulnerability, he brought up Dana. Akiko, I have been working ever so closely with Ensign Deming. She is truly exceptional. Her intuition, her ability to simply feel the ship's energy flows, it complements my analytical approach perfectly. Akiko, ever perceptive, smiled gently. Ah, Ensign Deming, the quiet one who is always with her pad. Daniel nodded, feeling a blush creep up his neck. Yes, she is remarkably brilliant and calm, even in the most extreme pressure. She is never flustered. We anticipate each other's needs in engineering without words. We are like two halves of a single circuit. He put up his teacup. His gaze drifted to the bustling cityscape outside his window. But these feelings, Akiko, I never experienced anything quite like this. It is illogical to feel such a strong emotional connection, particularly in a professional setting. Yet, when she is by my side, wrestling with a broken conduit, or presenting a new diagnostic, I feel a profound sense of righteousness or rightness of belonging. He looked at his sister, his brow furrowed with genuine confusion. It is a love, I think, but I don't know if I should have it. We are engineers focused on the ship, on the mission. And more importantly, I do not know if she shares these feelings. Dina is so private, so focused on her work. I see the respect in her eyes, the professional trust, but anything more, I cannot discern it. Akiko reaching across the low table, taking his hand. Daniel Kun, love is never illogical. It is the most powerful force in the universe, far more complex than any warp core. You are engineers, yes, but you are also human. And even Vulcans understand the logic of companionship and emotional connection, especially after shared trials. She squeezed his hand. Dana, she's quiet, yes, but I remember when you were younger, you would come home full of equations and theories. You are you are quiet too in your own way, but you glow when you talk about your work, about solving a complex problem. You say Dana is the same. Daniel nodded. Yes, she becomes entirely absorbed. Her passion is clear. Then she understands passion, Akiko concluded. And you have shared something profound, Daniel Kun. A life or death struggle, a deep professional bond. Sometimes that is the most fertile ground for deeper feelings to grow. As to whether she knows, actions often speak louder than words, especially for quiet people. She smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Does she lean into you when you are both struggling with a circuit? Do your hands brush by accident more often than necessary? Does she seek your counsel not just on engineering but on other matters? And do you find reasons to be near her, even when the work doesn't strictly require it? Daniel thought of the countless times in engineering, subtle ways of shoulders as they were squeezed into tight spaces, this shared exhaustion, the way Dana would hand him the exact tool he needed without being asked, the quick, knowing glances that conveyed entire conversations. He thought of how he often lingered after his shift, finding excuses to check on a system just to be near her quiet, reassuring presence. A small, hopeful smile touched his lips. Perhaps, perhaps she does, Akiko. Akiko patted his hand. Then the only logical thing to do, Daniel Kuhn, would be to leave it unsaid or untested. The Zandilar might be fighting gremlins, but your heart, my dear brother, is discovering new systems. Do not fear to explore them. Daniel left his sister's apartment. The starbase lights no longer just a sterile glow, but a backdrop to a newfound, exhilarating uncertainty. His mind was still a meticulously ordered system, but now a new program was running, one he hadn't anticipated, and it was demanding his full attention. His feelings for Dana, once an unspoken equation, were beginning to resolve into a tangible and perhaps mutual connection. Sarah Johnson's home was a stark contrast to the utilitarian efficiency of Starfleet. Her parents lived in a quaint, gravity defying cottage nestled in the rolling green hills of a terraformed asteroid colony, renowned for its um, artisanal teas and holistic retreats. It was a place of serene beauty, meticulously kept gardens, and the comforting scent of freshly brewing herbal infusions. Sarah, usually a whirlwind of bubbly enthusiasm, stepped off the transmat pad onto her parents' porch with a nervous slump in her shoulders. Her mother, Elara, a gentle woman with warm, perceptive eyes, and her father, Corbin, a jovial ex Starfleet cartographer now dabbling in hydroponic farming, met her with open arms. Sarah Flower, good. Oh, it's so good to see you, darling. Alara enveloped her in a soft, floral scented hug. My little astrogator, home from the stars, Corbin boomed, his laugh echoing across the quiet garden. But as they drew back, Alara's smile softened into a concerned frown. You look troubled, sweetheart. Is everything all right with your ship? We heard about the difficulties with the Zandilar. Sarah managed a weak smile. The Zandilar is having a rough time, Mom, Dad. But what that's not why I'm here. She sat down on the porch, swinging the familiar creak of the comfort, or familiar creak, a small comfort, and took a deep, shaky breath. It's about Mark, my boyfriend. Corbin sensed the shift in mood, immediately offered, "Did he not meet you at the starbase, Sweet Pea? I thought he was supposed to." Sarah shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "He left me, Dad. Before he even arrived, he sent a data chip, a message." She pulled a small engraved chip from her pocket, its polished surface feeling impossibly heavy. He said, he said, "Starfleet life is too much. The uncertainty, the long separations." He said he needed stability, a quiet life. He broke up with me. The dam broke. Sarah, the usually effervescent astrogator, dissolved into tears, burying her face in her hands. Alara immediately moved to her side, pulling her into a comforting embrace, stroking her hair. Corbin sat beside them, his jovial expression replaced by one of quiet sadness and potential anger. "That scoundrel, after all this time, while you were out there serving the Federation," Corbin muttered, his hands clenching. "Hush, dear," Alara murmured gently. "It's not about anger right now. It's about Sarah." She held her daughter close until Sarah's sobs subsided, leaving her breathless and raw. "I just, I don't understand," Sarah choked out, wiping her eyes. "We talked about this. We planned. I thought he understood my passion for the stars, for exploration, for helping other peoples. And now I just feel foolish and heartbroken." "You are not foolish, my love," Alara said softly, looking her daughter directly in the eye. "You are brave. You follow your heart, Sarah, and sometimes not everyone can keep pace with a heart as bright and adventurous as yours. But now you, but how do I go forward?" Sarah asked, her voice small. I feel, I feel like part of me has been ripped away, like I'm adrift. And with everything else happening on the Zandilar, I just feel lost." Corbin, having regained his composure, put a reassuring hand on her arm. "Listen to your mother, Sarah. You have a good heart, and you have a good head on your shoulders. Life in Starfleet is tough. Yes, it changes you, and sometimes not everyone can challenge you or can change you or change with you. Your path, my darling, is unique," Alara added. "It's filled with wonder and challenges that most people will never comprehend. Mark chose his path. It doesn't diminish yours. Your heart is well, It will heal, and when it does, it will be stronger and perhaps even wiser for this experience. Corbin continued, and for going forward, you put one foot in front of the other. You have a good ship, a good crew. You are needed. There's a powerful thing. That's a powerful thing, Sarah. You are to be needed, to have a purpose that is bigger than just one person or one relationship. He gestured towards starry, the star-dusted sky, visible even from their porch. You guide ships through those stars. You map the unknown. Don't let one earthbound heart break yours entirely. There are billions of stars out there, Sarah, billions of new possibilities. And you, my little astrogator, are meant to chart them. Sarah looked from her parents' loving face to the vast, shimmering expanse above their words, gentle yet firm, began to mend some of the fissures in her heart. She was heartbroken, yes, but not broken. She was an astrogator, a member of the Zandilar's crew, and her purpose extended far beyond the confines of a single relationship. Her passion for the stars still burned, a guiding light through the darkness of her personal grief, and she had a ship to navigate, a crew to help, and a saboteur to find. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what she needed to chart her own course forward. Ensign Jenny Pulvik's shore leave was not a journey home, but a continuation of her tireless work. She returned to Earth, but her destination was not a family residence, rather Starfleet Medical's sprawling central campus. It was here, amidst the cutting edge facilities and brilliant minds, that she hoped to find answers, not just for Jason, but for the insidious sabotage plaguing the Zandalir. She stepped off the turbolift into a sparse bioscience lab, still wearing her slightly rumpled Starfleet blue uniform, carrying a pad filled with the latest, most perplexing data on the nanites and the Zandalir's gremlins. Waiting for her was her father, Admiral Theron Pulvik, a distinguished Starfleet medical officer specializing in xenobiology contagions. He was a man of quiet authority and immense intellect. His silver hair neatly combed, his eyes sharp and perceptive even though the fatigue lines around them showed. "Jenny," he said, warm, proud smile touching his lips as he embraced her. "It's good to see you, my daughter. Though I'd hoped to or your leave would involve more actual leave and less advanced research." "Father," Jenny replied, returning his hug tightly, "I couldn't just rest, not with Jason and the ship." Admiral Pulvik nodded. His smile fading slightly. "I understand. My clearance has kept me thoroughly updated on the Zandelier's ordeal. The Obsidian Hand has proved to be a good, formidable, and deeply disturbing adversary. And Lieutenant Wellman's transformation. It's a marvel. It's a medical marvel, albeit a tragic one. Your data was invaluable, Jenny. It's truly groundbreaking." He led her to a quiet corner in the lab, offering her a nutrient-rich protein bar. "Rest for a moment, then tell me everything, from your perspective." Jenny, though exhausted, spoke with a renewed sense of purpose. She detailed the struggle to extract Jason from the derelict, the discovery of the Romulan cloaking device, her own harrowing escape from the collapsing outpost, and the the subsequent gremlins plaguing the Zandalir. She spoke of Daniel's ingenuity in creating a master nanite controller and the heartbreaking decision to stabilize Jason to his new, unique female form. "We have the deactivation protocols, Father," Jenny explained, tapping her pad, "but the nanites have evolved so rapidly, adapted so thoroughly. We could only stabilize his base form. His mind is intact, but his body, it's still capable of short involuntary shifts, and his breasts are a permanent feature of his new baseline. It's a miracle he survived at all, but it's also a consistent reminder of what they did. Admiral Polvik listened intently, nodding occasionally, his analytical mind processing every detail. The Obsidian Hand's bioengineering was far more advanced than than we anticipated. The adaptability of those nanites is terrifying. They weren't just creating a monster, they were creating a living, evolving weapon, a perfect infiltrator, as Commander T'Pau suspects. Then Jenny shifted to the Zandelier's current predicament and the sabotage. Father, it's systematic, subtle. It's it targets core systems, then reroutes, creating a cascade of failures. It's designed to look like stress, but it's too precise, like a ghost in the machine, slowly strangling us. She explained Daniel and Dana's frustration, their relentless efforts to patch what seemed unpatchable. Admiral Polvik stroked his chin thoughtfully. A nanite based saboteur. It fits. The Obsidian Hand would now or not abandon their asset. They likely infused a dormant nanite colony into the Zandelier's core systems, perhaps even during the initial investigation of the derelict. It lay hidden, waiting for a trigger, or perhaps for your return to Federation space where it could do maximum damage. He looked at his daughter, his eyes filled with both concern and admiration. This is no longer just about a supply run, Jenny. The Zandalir has become the front line against a new kind of enemy. Your entire crew, they've shown incredible resilience. Captain Richards' leadership, Lieutenant Wellman's courage, Ensign Key's genius, Ensign Debbing's intuition, and Ensign Johnson's tenacity. You are all extraordinary. He then focused on Jenny herself. And you, my daughter, you have recovered those deactivation protocols to have worked so tirelessly on Jason's case to be at the forefront of the understanding of these nanites. You have already proved to be one of Starfleet Medical's most invaluable assets. Your work here with the nanites is critical, not just for Jason, but for understanding how to combat the Obsidian Hand's future bioweapons. Jenny felt a surge of validation, a quiet strength settling within her. Her father, a man whose judgment she deeply respected, not only understood the magnitude of their ordeal, but acknowledged their contribution. The weight of responsibility was immense, but she was not alone. She had her father's guidance, Starfleet Medical's resources, and a family waiting for her on Zandalir. And with them, she knew they would find a way to fight back against the Obsidian Hand. All right. Captain Nora Richards, though physically exhausted, felt a renewed surge of purpose. The short shore leave for her crew, while well deserved, had been a stark reminder of the deeply personal stakes involved. With the Zandalir still undergoing extensive diagnostics for the insidious sabotage, Nora headed to Starfleet Command for a priority briefing. She marched through the bustling corridors of command, the weight of her uniform feeling heavier than usual. Her face, usually calm and composed, now bore subtle lines of stress. She reported directly to Admiral Vance, a seasoned Starfleet strategist with a reputation for sharp intellect and an unwavering gaze. Nora laid out her full report: the encounter with the derelict, the genetic creature, the Romulan cloaking device, the harrowing rescue on Gamma 22, Jason's horrific transformation, and finally, the insidious ongoing sabotage of the Zandalir itself. She detailed Daniel and Dana's struggles with the gremlins, Gina, Jenny's breakthrough on the nanite deactivation protocols, and Jason's current profoundly altered state. Admiral Vance listened without interruption. He expressed grim, or his expression grim. Captain Richards, your report is chilling. The Obsidian Hand's capabilities are far more extensive than sophisticated than our initial intelligence suggested. To infiltrate a Starfleet vessel at a molecular level and to transform one of our officers into such a volatile asset, this is a declaration of a new kind of war. We believe the sabotage is nanite based, Admiral. Nora stated, her voice firm, something planted during our initial investigation of the derelict, or perhaps even in the asteroid outpost. It's designed to make the Zandilar seem like it's fallen apart naturally, to cripple us subtly. Admiral Vance nodded slowly. Commander T'Pol's initial assessment aligns. We are initiating a galaxy-wide alert, but discreetly. We can't afford panic. Your crew's experience, particularly Lieutenant Wellman's condition, provides invaluable insight into their methods. He paused, his gaze softening slightly. And your handling of this crisis, Captain, has been exemplary. You have faced impossible odds and brought your ship the most, and most of your crew through it, securing vital intelligence. Nora felt a flicker of pride, but it was quickly overshadowed by the lingering threat. Thank you, Admiral. But we need to find the saboteur, and we need to stabilize Lieutenant Wellman fully. His transformation, while terrifying, could also be a unique asset if harnessed correctly. Agreed, Vance replied. Starfleet Medical is pouring resources into Lieutenant Wellman's case. As for the saboteur, your engineers have the best chance of finding it, given their intimate knowledge of the Zandilar's systems. We'll assign you a priority dry dock slot and a team of specialists to assist, but the lead remains yours. With the briefing concluded, Nora felt a profound weariness settle over her. She decided against returning to the Zandalir immediately, needing a few hours of true solitude. Her small apartment, located on one of Earth's quieter orbital platforms, um, was her sanctuary. She took a public transport, an automated vehicle humming softly as it ferried her through the bustling orbital lines. The city lights of Earth winkled below, a comforting blanket of civilization. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, but at least, she thought, she was safe. Upon arriving at her apartment, in she keyed in her access code. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dark, quiet interior. She stepped inside, the familiar scent of her own space a small comfort. Just as she reached to activate the lights, a subtle shift in the air. A faint metallic tang registered. Her Starfleet training, honed by years of anticipation and danger, screamed a warning. Before she could react, a figure detached itself from the shadows near her lounge area. It moved with unnatural speed and fluidity, too graceful for a human, too deliberate for an animal. Its form shimmered for a split second and momentarily blurred of its outlines, a flash of an almost organic, non humanoid shape before solidifying into a perfectly rendered human male, his features cold and unreadable. He struck with silent, devastating force, a sharp blow in her midsection, designed to incapacitate, followed by a swift, precise movement that targeted her comm badge, tearing it from her uniform. Nora gasped, doubling over, the air driven from her lungs. She instinctively reached for her phaser but his hand, surprisingly strong, clamped around her wrist, twisting, forcing her to drop it. Her mind, despite the shock and pain, immediately registered the impossible speed and almost liquid grace of his movements and a brief shimmer. Nanites. Captain Richards, the figure's voice was low, synthesized per devoid of emotion. Your persistence is inconvenient. His eyes, a startling, unnatural gold, locked onto hers. Nora tried to fight, to scream, but another precise strike to her jaw sent stars exploding behind her eyes. As consciousness began to fade, she felt a strong hand seize her, pulling her deeper into her own apartment, into darkness. The last thought that flickered through her mind was a terrifying realization. The saboteur wasn't just on the Zandilar, it was here, and it was a living weapon, an agent of the Obsidian Hand, capable of infiltrating anywhere, transforming into anyone, just like Jason. All right. The news of Captain Richard's abduction sent a shockwave through Starfleet Command, but also a grim confirmation. The Obsidian Hand's reach was far wider and more personal than anyone had imagined. The galvanized it galvanized the Zandalar's crew, now more determined than ever to find the saboteur and their captain. Jason, meanwhile, was on a different kind of shore leave, one filled with a profound personal upheaval. With the Zandalar temporarily grounded, Starfleet Medical approved his request to visit his family, hoping the familiar comfort of home might aid in his psychological adjustment. He was accompanied by a Starfleet counselor and under strict orders to report any unusual psychological shifts. His determination his destination was a small, quiet town nestled in the rolling farm hills of Earth. It was a place simply beauty, of simple beauty, red barns, endless green fields, and the comforting scent of freshly tilled earth. This was where Jason Williams or Wellman was jovial, straightforward security officer had grown up. He arrived at his childhood home, a sturdy farmhouse with a mixture of dread and longing. His mother, Martha, a kind faced woman with a hearty laugh, a younger, sis- a younger sister, Emily, a pragmatic veterinary technician, were waiting on the porch. The moment Martha saw him, she froze. The woman standing before her, um, with the slender, long brown hair and the unmistakable, unique feminine features, was utterly unrecognizable as her son. Emily's jaw dropped. Her eyes widened with shock. Jason? Martha whispered, her voice barely audible, a hand flying to her mouth. Jason's heart ached with the pain of seeing their shock. Mom, Emily, it's it's me. His new voice, softer, higher pitched, felt alien even to his own ears. Martha, after a moment of stunned silence, rushed towards, tears streaming down her face, pulling Jason into a tight hug. Oh, my baby, my poor baby, what have they done to you? The embrace was full of love, but also overwhelming grief. Emily, though visibly shaken, was more practical. She kept a small distance, her eyes scanning Jason's new form with the veterinarian's analytical gaze before finally softening. Jason? Really? What? How? Over the next few hours, Jason, with the counselor's gentle prompting, painstakingly explained the derelict, the creature, the nanites, the uncontrolled evolution, Daniel's desperate attempt to stabilize him, and his new permanent baseline. He spoke of the constant internal struggle, the moments of involuntary shifting, the profound disorientation of living in a body that felt less of his and utterly foreign. Martha listened intently, kept dabbing at her eyes. My poor boy, girl, what do I even call you now, sweetheart? Jason is fine, Mom, he said, his voice quiet. I'm still me inside. But even as he said it, he felt the hollow ache of uncertainty. The hardest part, however, was yet to come later that evening as the initial shock subsided and the fragile sense of normalcy began to settle. Emily was hesitant, with hesitant kindness, asked, Jason, what about you and Sarah? You were always so sweet on her. You talked about starting a family someday. The words hit Jason like a physical blow. A sharp, searing pain tore through him, far worse than any physician or physical discomfort. The nanites, responding to the intense emotional trauma, caused his skin to ripple subtly, his features to waver for a split second before snapping back. Sarah, Jason whispered, the realization crashing down on him with full force. Oh God, I hadn't thought about it. I was so focused on surviving, on this. He gestured vaguely at his new form, but now a family as this with Sarah. I can't be a father. I can't be a husband. Tears streamed down his face, tears not of physical pain, but of a profound loss. The dream of a white picket fence, of children, of a life with Sarah, a future he had always quietly envisioned, had been violently stripped away. He was a woman now, with a body that was both alien and and a spectacle. The simple masculine identity of father was irrecoverably gone. Martha rushed to his side, pulling him into another hug. Oh, my sweet boy, didn't don't say that. You're still you. You can still love. You can still have a family. It'll just be different. But Jason felt lost, adrift. His once clear purpose, his future had shattered. The nanites had not just transformed his body; they had um, forever altered his life, his dreams, and his very sense of self. He was a woman, yes, but the man he had been, the man who had dreamed of being a father, was gone, and the grief for that lost future was almost as unbearable and physical as the physical changes themselves. All right. The silence that descended after ancient Kellyan's departure was profound, broken only by the low, uh, ins- insistent hum of the energy cuffs restraining Nora. Her head throbbed, her ribs ached, and her comm badge lay ripped and useless in the dark corner of her apartment. The most immediate threat was the cuffs and the 1 hour countdown Killeen had issued, a chilling timeline designed to turn her rescue into a tactical complication for her own crew. The escape. Nora trained immediately. Nora's training immediately kicked in, overriding the shock and pain. She strained against her energy cuffs, testing the limits of the magnetic field. They were designed to hold a Starfleet officer, um, meaning brute force was useless. She focused her attention on the environment. Keelan's operation relied on stealth and precision. The room was seamless, but she had seen the hidden console he used to open the exit port. She needed a distraction, an energy surge, or something to disrupt the magnetic field. Knowing a sonic charge wouldn't pierce the seamless walls, she instead focused on the cuffs. She carefully manipulated a micro tool uh, found on the floor, feeling for the seam of an energy cuff in her right wrist. It was impossible to unlock, but she might be able to overload it. She carefully wedged the tool into a tiny axis, point near the power source. Free from the chair, Nora didn't pause. She retrieved her dropped phaser and her useless comm badge. Located the she located the seam of the exit port Killeen had used and aimed her phaser not at maximum power, but for a tight, high frequency pulse to disrupt the magnetic lock mechanism. The wall shimmered and hissed, but the seamless panel slid open, revealing a short, dark tunnel leading to a small, unpowered obsidian hand transport ship. Colleen had indeed left her in a discreet mobile monitoring facility attached to her orbital platform. The signal, uh, stepping into the transport ship, Nora ignored the unsettling alien controls and went straight to the ship's subspace communicator. It was a minimalist, non standard design, but functional. She knew Starfleet patrols were monitoring the sector for any unusual uh, ad- abnormalities. She bypassed the complex encryption, focused instead on sending a raw emergency signal. She didn't have time for a full message, only a single crucial data burst. With her phaser rifle resting next to the console, she keyed in coordinates of the disabled Obsidian hand outpost from which Jenny had escaped, followed by a single word: nanite. I don't know why they put Jenny in there. It just is what it is. All right. The signal was fleeting, encrypted, and highly unusual, designed to trigger an immediate flag at Starfleet intelligence, linking the source of the distress to the enemy. Then she disabled the transport ship's core systems, ensuring Colleen's mobile base was now just a powerless derelict. She used the ship's own emergency evacuation protocol to beam herself out, aiming for the nearest Starfleet utility station roughly 20 kilometers away. She materialized on a maintenance platform, swaying on her feet, the pain in her ribs demanding attention. She finally collapsed, activating the platform's standard low power distress beacon just as the 1 hour deadline Keelan had set expired. Within minutes, a Starfleet patrol vessel, alerted by the subtle subspace signal and the local distress beacon, arrived. Nora was immediately transported to Starbase Medical, and the Zandilar crew was summoned. Jenny Pulvik was the first to reach her medical tricorder humming anxiously. She efficiently treated Nora's injuries, her focus cutting through the distress. Later, in a private conference room, Nora faced her entire crew: Jenny, Daniel, Dana, Sarah, and a subdued, still visibly adapting Jason. The sabotage isn't random, it's an intelligent, nanite based system programmed to mimic structural decay, Nora stated, her voice tight but unwavering. The saboteur is Agent Kalen, and he's a highly sophisticated nanite agent. They are exploiting our ship's complexity, making us believe the Zandilar is simply failing. She looked directly at Daniel and Dana. He confirmed the cloaking device was a distraction. They want us searching for phantoms while the real nanite system completes its work. She then looked at Jason, her expression softened by profound expression or compassion. Jason, they view your transformation not as a tragedy, but as a success. They need the frequency of Daniel's controller to complete your final activation. We have to find this nanite system before it completes its sabotage, Nora concluded, her eyes burning with resolve. Dana, your mission just went from repair to a molecular hunt for a hidden nanite core. Sarah prepared every sensor for a complete shift in parameters. We are no longer looking for structural damage, we are looking for sentient decay. The Zandilar crews sobered by the clear personal threat to their captain and their ship, understood the gravity of their new mission. The Obsidian Hand had left them alive, but had given them a terrifying race against time. What will Daniel and Dana's plan be to find the hidden nanite core, and how will they involve the newly empowered Jason? The molecular hunt begins. Captain Richard's debriefing shattered the last vestiges of the crew's illusion of safety. The gremlins weren't random failures; they were sentient decay orchestrated by a hidden nanite core. With the Obsidian Hand confirmed to be one step ahead, the crew of the Zandilar initiated a desperate, high-stakes hunt for the microscopic saboteur. Daniel and Dana, the engineering solution. The challenge to find its a of finding a self-replicating nanite system designed to mimic the ship's own structural decay was astronomical. Daniel Key and Dana Debbing worked with the specialized Starfleet dry dock team, devised a plan that relied on both Daniel's cutting edge theory and Dana's intimate, intuitive knowledge of the Zandalar's unique quirks. One uh, Step one, the reverse decay scan. Daniel theorized that while the nanites mimics decay, the molecular structure to activate the core must still emit a unique concentrated energy signature as it communicates and directs the swarm. They couldn't scan for failure, they had to scan for order. Daniel modified the ship's most sensitive long range sensor array, which had been prone to gremlins, to look for inverse patterns, areas where the ship was too structurally sound, indicating the nanite core was prioritizing its own defense for a complex repeating energy pulse that signaled a command network. Captain Richards immediately recognized that their greatest asset in finding the nanite agent was someone who had already been the host to one. Jason, though still grappling with his transformed identity, he was eager for a chance to fight back. All right, Jason, with his nanite empathy, Jenny Polvik theorized that due to Jason's intimate, permanent fusion with the nanites, his nervous system might possess a residual sympathetic resonance with other concentrated nanite fields. Jason's duty was to patrol the ship's most critical and vulnerable systems, those where the gremlins were most active, like the navigational deflector control and auxiliary warp plasma conduits. During her During his patrols, Jason would remove his security gloves and place his bare hands directly on the bulkheads, where he was near the nanite core. He could feel a distinct involuntary inner shimmer, a psychic echo of the concentrated nanite energy. It was a terrifying feeling, a internal resonance that signaled a proximity of his own biological nightmare, but he endured it, using his physical discomfort as a molecular driving or divining rod. Uh, the breakthrough. The combined efforts of the crew soon paid off. Daniel and Dana, listening to the static-filled audio feedback, began to isolate a faint rhythmic pulse emanating from the primary impulse engine section. The signal was too organized, too deliberate to be simple ship noise. Simultaneously, Jason was patrolling the same area, a rarely accessed waste plasma recycling conduit junction deep within the stern section. As his hands brushed against the cold metal, his body convulsed, his skin rippled, and he felt a powerful, concentrated internal vibration, the strongest he had ever felt. The distress was so intense that for a fleeting moment, his body began to involuntarily shift. His musculature definition momentarily sharpened as his internal defense mechanism fought the foreign signal. His immediate he immediately reported the position. Captain Engineering, it's here. Waste Plasma Junction, Section Beta 9. It felt like it felt like my entire nervous system was vibrating. It's right there. Daniel cross-referenced his report with the audio anomaly and the inverse data scan data. Uh, Captain Lieutenant Wellman's position aligns perfectly with the organized signal source, and the inverse scan shows a hyperdense molecular shield around the exact junction. The core is nestled inside the or inside in the core is nestled inside a decommissioned plasma regulator. Nora's voice crackled over the comms. Adrenaline surged. All right, crew. Target acquired. Jason, Daniel, Dana, get to that junction now. We're going in. The confrontation. All right, the race to the waste plasma recycling conduit junction was a blur of frantic energy. Daniel and Dina and Jason, accompanied by a small security detail, converged on section Beta 9. The air in the narrow service tunnel thrummed with a low, malevolent energy growing stronger with every step. Jason guided them with his internal tremors, pointing to a sealed, decommissioned plasma regulator. It's in there. I can feel it, Jason gasped, clutching his stomach, his skin rippling from the nanite resonance. Daniel and Dana worked with a furious, synchronized precision, cutting through the reinforced access panel. Inside, nestled within the old regulator, was not a circuit board, but a pulsating crystalline sphere the size of a human fist, glowing with an ominous internal light. Tendrils of microscopic self-replicating nanites visibly flowing from its surface, seeping into the surrounding conduits, mimicking decay. This was the heart of the gremlins, the core, Daniel breathed, his hand already reaching for a specialized containment field generator. It's bigger than I expected, Dana muttered, her eyes wide with grim fascination, and far more active. Just as Daniel initiated the containment field, a searing pain lanced through Jason. His body convulsed, and he cried out, collapsing onto his knees. His skin rippled violently, shifting through a terrifying kaleidoscope of forms male, female, grotesque beast before snapping back to her female baseline, but clearly unstable. Jason, what's wrong? Jenny Pulvik's voice, relayed from sickbay, was urgent. The core, it's fighting back, Jason gasped, clutching his head. It's trying to override me. My nanites, they're responding to its command. Suddenly, the Zandilar was rocked by a massive internal explosion. Alarms blared across the entire ship. Captain to Daniel, what was that? Nora's voice roared over the comms, filled with renewed urgency. It's not us, Captain, Daniel yelled back, wrestling with the containment field. The core must have had a defensive failsafe. It just blew a section from the impulse manifold. All right. The unexpected arrival. On the bridge, Captain Richards fought to maintain control of the severely damaged Zandilar. Sparks flew from consoles, emergency lights flickered, and the ship groaned under the strain. Sarah Johnson struggled to keep power flowing to essential systems while Jenny barked orders to her medical team, preparing for further explosions. Then the turbolift doors on the bridge hissed open. Stepping out was Agent Kalen, the man who had abducted Nora. He had Daniel's master nanite controller in his hand, its blue light pulsing ominously. His gold eyes filled with a cold, triumphant gleam. swept over the chaotic bridge. Captain Richards, Keelan purred, his synthesized voice cutting through the alarms, a violent effort, but ultimately futile. How do you how did you get here? Nora demanded, pulling her phaser. My nanite agent was merely a distraction, a means to gather information and sow chaos, Kalen explained, his gaze fixed on the controller in his hand. My true objective was to retrieve this. He raised the master nanite controller, your engineer's ingenious device. He designed it to control the nanites, and now it will serve its true purpose. Just as Nora was about to order Kalen to surrender, he pressed the sequence of buttons on the master nanite controller. A high frequency whine emanated from the device, um, growing rapidly in intensity. This is a deactivation frequency, Kalen announced, his voice devoid of emotion, designed to neutralize the nanite core and, unfortunately, your lieutenant. Any other active nanite or any any other active nanite colonies. He aimed the controller not at the core, but directly at the bridge's main view screen, which showed a live feed of Daniel, Dana, and Jason still struggling with the waste plasma junction. No, Nora screamed, realizing his intent. The core was protected by the regulator, but Jason was exposed. Kayleen pressed the final button. The master nanite controller emitted a powerful, focused pulse of energy, the very same frequency designed to eliminate the nanites. A scream tore through the Zandilar's comm system, raw and agonizing. It was Jason. In the waste plasma junction, the crystalline nanite core exploded into dust, its malevolent light extinguished. The gremlins died. The Zandilar systems, as if suddenly freed from stranglehold, began to stabilize. But the deactivation pulse broadcast across the entire ship also struck Jason. His body spasmed violently. The shape shifting became uncontrollably rapid, her form cycling through an agonizing succession of monster, beast, man, woman, each grotesque transformation tearing at his very being. Jason, Daniel, and Dana cried out, rushing to his side. With a final heart wrenching shudder, his form dissolved. He melted back into the shimmering, sentient pool of goo, just as he had been before. The nanites were neutralized. The threat of Jason's consciousness was over, but his body was gone, reset to the primordial state, awaiting a new signal, a new blueprint that might never come. The nanites were gone. On the bridge, a triumphant yet cold smile touched Agent Kalen's lips. Mission accomplished, he declared. He then turned the master nanite controller back on himself. Initiating the same deactivation pulse, Nora watched in horror as Agent Kalen's perfectly rendered human form shimmered, wavered, and then dissolved into a similar pool of biological goo. He too was a nanite construct. He had sacrificed himself to ensure the destruction of the core and deactivation of Jason's nanite form. He was one of them, Sarah whispered, her face pale. Nora looked from the shimmering goo that was once Keelan to the view screen showing the motionless pool that was once Jason. The Zandilar was saved. The nanite core was gone, but the cost was devastating. They had a functional ship, but they had just lost Jason, not to death, but to a state of being worse than death. And the obsidian hand had claimed another victory. The grim truth settled over the bridge. The war was far from over. All right. Well, and with this, we end another part of the story here. Hopefully, you're still enjoying it. Like I said before, I'm putting Jason through a lot of grief here as he's unfortunately been kind of hit with the nanites and that, which was never the original sense of what it went, but I had kind of put it in there because I needed a way to get it in there at one point. So he became the person of my unfortunate um, torment. So, um, how do you feel it's doing so far? Just leave me comments or whatever. It's fun doing this, and I said this before. Just kind of doing a self kind of workings of a story. So hopefully you're still enjoying it. I'm enjoying bringing it to you. It's a lot of reading for me, and I'm not the best narrator in the world. I hope you guys all understand that. It'll probably never change in my lifetime. I'm just who I am. Uh, but hopefully it's something fun to listen to as the episodes keep going on. With that, thank you so very much for joining me today. Thank you so much for being here. It's always wonderful having you around. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.